In the vast lattice of galactic order, where worlds rose and crumbled under the boots of empires, Earth was barely a flicker in the minds of the ruling species. The United Galactic Coalition, a council of the most advanced civilizations, considered Earth a backwater anomaly. An undeveloped, noisy planet clinging to kinetic projectiles and fossil fuels. Its people spoke in passionate tones, their machines crude, their weapons primitive. Among a galaxy teeming with neural-linked artillery and light-speed drones, Earth's reliance on gunpowder and mechanics felt comical. The coalition categorized Earth as a cultural curiosity at best, a liability at worst. That perception didn't change when Earth's application to join the interspecies combat trials was approved. No one expected them to be accepted. Most assumed the request would be auto-declined like the last dozen attempts. But this cycle was different. Earth's submission came with perfect bureaucratic formality, bolstered by one clause none could ignore: Earth requested to demonstrate. That word carried weight. It wasn't a plea for mercy or alliance. It was a challenge. The trials were not war, but neither were they mere sport. They were a proving ground. Every 10 cycles, each coalition species selected a single combatant, the apex of their martial heritage. The goal wasn't to kill, but to exhibit discipline, skill, and superiority across several scenarios. The victor earned not only prestige but policy influence, the kind that bent trade laws and restructured borders. So when Earth was granted a slot in the lineup, laughter echoed across the galactic net. Most thought it a clerical joke. Others, a diplomatic gesture. Earth would be eliminated in the early rounds, and normality would resume. Then came the equipment briefing. Each species submitted a dossier of their representative's loadout. There were neuroreactive armor systems, self-repairing plasma cannons, adaptive targeting implants. And then Earth's entry appeared. A bolt-action rifle. Wooden stock. Steel barrel. 5-round magazine. No energy readouts, no smart link. It was as if someone had submitted a museum relic. The briefing room burst into mocking chatter. Metal pellets? Kinetic discharge? Have they mistaken the event for archaeology? Analysts assigned Earth a performance rank below minimum threat. Commentators crafted jokes before matches even began. The word anachronistic trended for half a cycle. Earth didn't respond. They offered no justification, no counter. Just silence. And a name. Not a title, no enhancement designation, no genetic variant tag. Just a call sign: the shooter. Among the coalition, most elite warriors had documented genetic augmentations, AI reflex assistance, battlefield simulations burned into their neural tissue. In contrast, Earth's submission had no technical profile. No medical overlays. No tactical modeling. Just one entry: human male. 6 feet 1 inch. 47 years of age. Rifleman. No enhancements. No modifications. Cleared for baseline category. Commanders argued it was a waste of a slot. A few diplomats suspected a cultural statement, some kind of Terran stubbornness. Still, the rules were followed. Earth had abided by every regulation, every deadline. They had claimed their seat legally. There would be no protest. And so, the tournament protocols commenced. Earth's arrival was barely documented. No fanfare. Their shuttle was unarmed, unmarked. The man who emerged wore no insignia. No escort. Just dark fatigues, a canvas strap across his chest, and the rifle slung over his shoulder. The guards at the check-in node paused, puzzled by the absence of a neural ID tag. He handed over a stamped card and moved on, expression unreadable. The High Command discussed him only briefly. He was a sideshow. Entertainment. A procedural anomaly to fill out the brackets. After all, what could a human, unaided by tech, untethered to systems, possibly do against combatants shaped in gravity wells, raised in war academies that bent space-time? One strategist laughed. If he lasts around, I'll eat my star suit. What they didn't know was that Earth had not sent a soldier for intimidation. They had sent something worse. A practitioner. Someone who did not rely on systems, but on repetition. Not on enhancements, but on decades of grinding skill. Someone trained not to overpower machines, but to ignore them, to outweight them, to watch for their timing flaws, their over-engineered predictability. Earth had sent someone whose weapon didn't compensate for error, it punished it. No one knew what kind of war shaped him. His file had no history beyond marksman certification and 32 years of silence. No battlefield logs. No public engagements. But those who looked closely at the grain of his rifle stock, at the wear on the bolt handle, at the subtle gleam of oiled steel, understood one thing too late: it had not been purchased. It had been used. And for the first time, behind closed doors, an UGC moderator whispered a phrase almost no one had spoken seriously in 100 years. "What if he doesn't miss?" They called it a warm-up. A trial stage meant to ease contenders into the real tests. The targets were synthetic, programmed to shift speeds, mimic evasive patterns, and replicate environmental variables. Most competitors activated HUD overlays, letting neural systems track trajectory paths and compensate for ambient irregularities in real time. Their suits adjusted stance and grip angle automatically. The result was elegant, efficient, almost clinical. One by one, each species completed their round with practiced precision. Misses were rare. Delays even rarer. The crowd gave polite applause. Then came Earth's entry. No glowing armor. No mechanical limbs. The man stepped forward in plain fatigues, unaccompanied by drone or AI aid. He unslung his rifle, checked the chamber manually, adjusted the strap over his shoulder, and waited. No one expected much. The range lit up. 100 targets appeared across a simulated canyon, moving in erratic arcs, programmed to confuse even advanced algorithms. The shooter raised his rifle. No scope reticle. No digital markers. Just a steel barrel and a pair of human eyes. He pulled the trigger. A single crack split the air. One target dropped. Before the audience could react, the second shot echoed. Then the third. Fourth. A steady rhythm, mechanical in pace, yet entirely human in delivery. Within moments, targets began vanishing in sequence. No missed shots. No pause. No need for correction. Observers leaned forward. They recalibrated the angle sensors. Some assumed an embedded aiming program was cloaked in the rifle. Analysts from 3 species ran scans. Nothing. Just a bolt-action weapon powered by burning chemicals. Halfway through the test, silence fell over the arena. Even the commentators stopped narrating. The man never shifted expression. Each shot was placed with absolute control, fired only when needed. The pattern wasn't just precise, it was intentional. Every bullet landed at the same impact point, dead center. Not close. Exact. Alien spectators whispered terms of disbelief. Their systems couldn't replicate that consistency. For them, variance was normal, even acceptable. But this wasn't variance. This was domination through discipline. He finished the course with 5 rounds to spare. None wasted. The instructor at the range, a 3-eyed tactician from the Galactic order, stood frozen, unsure whether to declare the round complete or investigate a malfunction. The scoreboard updated. Earth, 100/100. Time moderate. Accuracy, perfect. Efficiency rating unmatched. No other contender had achieved complete central mass hits without computational assistance. The closest had needed adaptive feedback loops to reach 93% efficiency. In the broadcast center, commentators scrambled to rewrite their commentary. Words like anomaly and statistical glitch replaced earlier jokes. Theories emerged. Maybe he'd memorized the sequence in advance? Maybe the targets were slower for him. All proved false on review. A day later, footage analysis confirmed what many had refused to admit. No special treatment. No timing irregularities. No interference. Just a man with a rifle, and a level of consistency no one had prepared for. It wasn't just the result that shook the coalition. It was the absence of dependency. Every other participant leaned on technology, systems built to refine reflexes or correct trajectory flaws. This man required none. His results were not a product of better tools. They were a result of total control over self and machine. In response, several species filed quiet inquiries. Was he enhanced? No. Any undocumented implants? None. Psychological conditioning? Only routine military evaluation. They requested access to his training records. The request was denied. Commentators tried to contextualize the performance. One called it an evolutionary outlier. Another dismissed it as luck enhanced by adrenaline. But those who watched closely understood something deeper had occurred. This wasn't chance. It was something far older than code or hardware. It was the byproduct of repetition, of a mind trained not to rely, but to earn. Every shot came from years of exposure to cold winds, empty ranges, breath discipline, recoil control, the kind of expertise that couldn't be downloaded or fabricated. When the next match rosters were released, some contenders studied Earth's placement with unease. For the first time in the tournament's long history, a baseline human with no implants, no armor, and no augmentation was listed as a statistical threat. Not because of his strength. Not because of his speed. But because he had shown what perfection looked like without assistance, and that terrified them. No speeches followed. No interviews were given. Earth's representative returned to his quarters, cleaned his rifle by hand, and slept. Not because he had won anything, but because the job had only just begun. The terrain simulation was engineered to expose weaknesses. Designed by species who hunted through scent, stalked using echolocation, and tracked prey with quantum resonance, it covered variable ecosystems, dense forests, icy ridges, irradiated deserts, submerged ruins. Every inch embedded with hidden sensors, audio triggers, decoy pulses, and AI-disguised threats. It wasn't a test of elimination, it was a measure of presence, precision, and detection evasion. Each contestant was placed alone and given a single objective: neutralize all active targets without being seen. Most activated cloaking fields, rerouted thermal signatures, employed microdrones to scout the area. Their movements were almost invisible to the naked eye, tracked only through motion logs and displacement trails. High success rates were common. But every action, every tool used, left traces, artificial signatures distinguishable under deep analysis. Earth's entry didn't activate anything. No devices. No mask. He walked into the simulation dressed the same as before, rifle in hand, gear unchanged. The system auto-detected no heat shielding, no light refraction, no biometric dampening. Supervisors flagged it as a procedural error, assuming equipment failure. But he had passed inspection. He had chosen to enter unassisted. Observers predicted disaster. Moving through that environment without camouflage or augmentation was considered suicidal. The system initiated the match regardless. Minutes passed. Nothing. No weapon fire. No audible movement. Target nodes remained idle. Some wondered if he was lost or hesitating. But then, one by one, targets began deactivating. Not in rapid succession, slow, deliberate intervals. Each takedown occurred with no corresponding sound, no traceable energy emission, no hint of where the shooter was. Alien tacticians began replaying sensor data. Every angle showed only the targets reacting, shutting down from perfectly placed strikes. But the source of each shot was missing. No muzzle flash. No thermal spike. No movement signature. Just absence followed by impact. Eventually, a pattern emerged. He wasn't chasing targets. He was waiting. Predicting. Mapping terrain not through system overlays, but pure environmental reading. His path never intersected automated sweeps. He moved like an element of the environment, either faster nor slower than needed. Not a ghost, but a presence tuned to the surroundings so precisely it left nothing behind. When the final target fell, the system displayed results. 0 detections. All threats neutralized. Efficiency perfect. Tactical visibility index, lowest ever recorded. For the first time, The Coalition's surveillance AI returned a null heat map. There was no movement trail. No disturbance pattern. The man had passed through the gauntlet like mist over glass. Species bred for pursuit and ambush began re-evaluating their doctrines. They had designed this trial expecting to dominate through biological superiority or sensor advantage. But the human hadn't outpaced them. He had simply made himself unreadable. Not through tech, but by mastering restraint. An inquiry was opened. Was the man using field-invisible gear? Analysts confirmed, no such tech existed in Earth's catalog. His clothing was ordinary. Materials off the shelf. Rifle unchanged. Ammunition standard lead core. All evidence pointed to only one explanation. He had mapped the entire course by instinct, moved in tune with its artificial wind currents, avoided cameras through their static angles, and timed his shots to coincide with ambient sound spikes. Nothing about it was accidental. The psychological impact rippled faster than the reports. Competitors stopped mocking. Discussions turned guarded. Those with advanced neural targeting began second-guessing their interface timing. Why could someone without algorithms outperform predictive logic? Coalition generals met privately. Some suggested Earth's representative was trained with hidden simulation data. Others believed he possessed undocumented cognitive traits. All investigations yielded the same conclusion: the shooter wasn't faster or smarter. He simply never acted unnecessarily. Each bullet, each step, each pause, was earned through years of failure refined into habit. Muscle memory honed without assistance became sharper than artificial edge. Most species trained to correct for error. Humans, this one especially, trained to avoid making it in the first place. When match scores were made public, Earth was at the top again. Not through brute force. Not by exploiting system flaws. But by operating within constraints more effectively than those who had none. And for the first time, the fear wasn't about the weapon. It was about the person behind it. The Coalition had encountered threats before, powerful, chaotic, destructive. But this was different. This wasn't rage or overwhelming might. This was precision so absolute it exposed how reliant the rest had become on tools to mask their imperfections. No longer was Earth a curiosity. Now it was a problem. One they couldn't model, predict, or explain away. Because their systems could measure heat, light, force, but they couldn't quantify will. The final duel wasn't symbolic, it was a statement. The reigning champion, Vralin of the Croth Dominion, had never been bested. Towering, armored, and linked to a combat AI built from 3 war libraries, he represented every advantage the galaxy prized: scale, speed, system integration. His armor was layered with dynamic shielding that reacted in milliseconds. His weapons suite included guided plasma spikes, adaptive shock pulses, and predictive kinetic bursts. No one had forced him to retreat in over 5 cycles. He didn't speak during combat. The system did it for him, calculating probabilities as he moved. His record wasn't undefeated by luck, it was by dominance. His opponent, Earth's representative, stood without commentary. No armor, no link systems, no telemetry feedback. The same rifle slung calmly. No change in appearance, loadout, or demeanor. The duel format didn't favor him. There was no concealment, no terrain variation. The field was a calculated trap for unpredictability, angles layered with distortions, moving partitions, echo displacements. It was built to reward fast processing combatants, not analog method. The signal initiated. Vralin launched first. 10 projectiles curved in simultaneous paths, guided to intersect escape vectors. No human could outrun them. But they missed. Not because they were inaccurate, but because they arrived where the shooter should have been. He wasn't there. Sensors reanalyzed in real time. No deviation detected in footing. No thruster residue. The shooter had moved between frames, by instinct, not speed. Before Vralin's next salvo adjusted, a single crack rang out. The plasma barrier absorbed the impact, flared, then stabilized. A glancing shot. No damage. The next attack was faster. Twin pulses bent gravity around their path. The shooter rolled out, using no assisted momentum. He used the field's ambient noise to mask movement, ducked under the distortion, and planted a round straight into Vraaland's support actuator. Armor absorbed it, but diagnostics pinged a precision anomaly, impact radius within a 5mm vulnerability. Unrepeatable? No. Intentional. Vraaland recalibrated. His system stopped predicting based on human templates. It began raw pattern analysis. The human had no patterns. He didn't follow bait, didn't repeat successful motions. He adjusted every 5 seconds, pacing himself against Vraaland's own adaptation curve. Every other warrior in the tournament had used equipment to gain advantage. Earth's shooter used none. But with each shot, something clear emerged. He wasn't reacting to the field, he was reading through it. Every trap became terrain. Every distortion became a guide. His rifle, archaic by all standards, worked without delay. No recharge. No lag. Just a chamber, a pull, a result. Then came the deciding moment. Vraaland, pressured for the first time, activated full lockdown, fortress mode. Indestructible to all known conventional weapons. System calculated a 0% breach probability for standard rounds. The field froze. Tension cracked across the observers. The shooter lowered his rifle slightly. Looked. Not scanned, looked star. Adjusted the bolt. A soft click. A breath in. No flourish. No digital targeting. Just stillness. He fired. The bullet ricocheted off a collapsed panel, skipped through a mist field, curved at an angle impossible to model, and struck the only unshielded node, an exhaust vent the size of a coin, exposed for precisely 2 seconds every minute. The shield shattered from within. Vraaland dropped. Not dead. Not broken. Just done. His AI pinged system failure. It had no explanation. Silence blanketed the arena. There was no applause. No commentary. The event system took longer than usual to register the victor. Earth win. Status unassisted. Impact rating off scale. Score adjusted, historical. Vraaland's unit demanded a review. Frame-by-frame analysis showed no visual assistance. The bullet's trajectory was legal. It wasn't luck. It was engineered using terrain knowledge, wind estimation, and timing only a human could master. Machines didn't replicate the path. Algorithms gave up after 5 attempts. Every species watching saw the same message written without words. Power wasn't enough. Technology wasn't certainty. Victory wasn't defined by noise. The shooter didn't celebrate. He disassembled his rifle, piece by piece, and placed it back into its case. For him, it had never been about glory. It had always been about clarity, understanding that a weapon's value didn't lie in its design, but in the hand that wielded it. What terrified the galaxy wasn't the shot. It was the silence that followed, when every advanced system realized something far more primitive had just outthought them all. Across every communication channel, replay feeds of the final duel flooded screens. Analysts ran simulations trying to replicate the bullet's path. Nothing matched. The shot hadn't defied physics, it had obeyed them with a precision no one expected from a species lacking integrated combat systems. Every variable had been calculated in the shooter's mind, using nothing but sight, experience, and understanding of cause and effect. No assistive interface. No predictive software. Just a man who saw what others didn't because he trained longer, failed more often, and learned beyond the limits machines respected. Military academies across the coalition initiated internal reviews. What systems had they overdeveloped? What instincts had they replaced with shortcuts? Experts in targeting AI quietly questioned the value of their models. If a rifleman could outperform the most advanced warrior by simply observing and adapting, then perhaps technology had dulled the very senses it once sharpened. Requests flooded Earth's diplomatic channel. Training exchanges, cultural insight, cooperative programs, all attempts to decode how such skill could exist without mechanical reinforcement. Earth refused most of them. They weren't interested in parading talent or exporting warriors. The shooter hadn't represented superiority. He had shown something far more disruptive: self-sufficiency. Species bred for tactical supremacy saw the problem immediately. Earth didn't need upgrades. They had conditioned individuals to survive without dependency. That distinction reframed their threat profile. Not as unstable or primitive, but as dangerous in ways previously unmeasured. A society that fought with what it had, and made it work, could never be underestimated again. The tournament's conclusion sparked more than curiosity. The power structure shifted. Council seats, once kept from developing worlds, were suddenly reevaluated. Earth was now seen not just as qualified, but essential. Their insights into human perception, training philosophy, and mechanical mastery began influencing policy. Not through force, but respect. Other champions acknowledged the result with professional composure. Yet behind closed doors, resentment brewed. Entire careers had been shaped around systems Earth never used. Some took offense. Others took notes. Training programs started shifting focus. Less emphasis on real-time guidance, more on baseline ability. Shooters who had once been phased out of elite circles were reinstated. The ripples spread fast. The shooter declined interviews. When contacted by the press feeds, Earth's delegation offered no commentary. One line was issued across official channels, asterisk. Let performance speak. Asterisk. That silence only amplified interest. He returned aboard the same unmarked shuttle, carrying no trophies, offering no farewell. His rifle, worn and oiled, was the only thing he brought home. In the aftermath, Earth's military doctrine became a case study. Not because of exotic theories, but because of its simplicity. They taught shooters to listen to wind before reading data, to feel balance before checking alignment. Where others sought certainty through code, humans found it in habit built from years of imperfection. Their weapons punished error. Their training minimized it. What rattled the coalition most wasn't the tournament result. It was the realization that Earth had likely sent only one of many. If one unaided human could dismantle centuries of tactical advantage using tools others dismissed, then what might a coordinated unit achieve? No one wanted to find out the hard way. Some species attempted to replicate Earth's methods. They failed. Not because the concepts were hard, but because the culture wasn't built for it. Patience, repetition, and failure as growth, these weren't universally embraced. In many civilizations, those were signs of weakness. For Earth, they were prerequisites for precision. Whispers of the shooter turned into legend. His name never revealed, his methods never formally documented, he became a symbol of focus without noise. Some believed him to be a myth crafted for psychological impact. Others knew better. They saw the footage. Frame by frame. No glitch, no trick, no hidden device. Just clarity of purpose and control no algorithm could mimic. On a diplomatic level, Earth gained more than credibility. They earned caution. Rivals stopped laughing. Allies asked deeper questions. The shooter hadn't just outperformed, he had redefined what performance meant. The message wasn't that humans were superior, but that they were capable of discipline so absolute, it disrupted assumptions formed over centuries. Back on Earth, no celebrations occurred. No monuments were built. The man returned to quiet routine. No one followed him. No cameras waited. His rifle remained in use, not as an artifact, but as a tool still sharpened. Because for him, the match wasn't a conclusion. It was a demonstration. Not of war, but of readiness. And in the end, what unsettled the galaxy wasn't just that he won. It was that he did it without needing anything from them.